welcome to the Mindset Michele TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us yet again for another incredible show. And today we have the extra special guest, my dear, wonderful local member. Yes, last week we had my local handyman. This week we've got my local member for Parliament, the very distinguished Honourable Tim James. Hello, Tim.
Hi, Michele. It is a great pleasure and honour, can I say, to be with you. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
It's wonderful. And for those of you, because there is many different areas within Australia and overseas in terms of politicians, Tim James, well, what a distinguished background. He's currently the member for Willoughby in my local area here in Sydney. He's also the Shadow Minister for Fair Trading and a number of other things that I'm sure Tim will be able to share with us. He's got a very distinguished background in the Liberal Party with the Menzies Institute, working in offices like with John Howard and Joe Hockey. But he began his career as an auditor in KPMG. So I'm fascinated about this life's journey, Tim. How does one go from an auditor, you know, that's a lot of work to begin with at KPMG, through to public office and then winning public office in an area like Willoughby? It's a long and interesting journey, and I'm sure people would love. Please share your journey with us.
Yeah, thanks, Michele. And I mean, life is a journey and careers, of course, are a journey. And you're right, it was straight out of high school, actually. It was a cadetship, right? So 2 years at KPMG, well, actually slightly more than two, but initially 2 years full-time, straight out of high school. So I'm 18, I've done my HSC, and I put on a suit and I get on the train from Artarmon into the city. And I've got to say, it was a fantastic grounding, a terrific set of foundations in business, in understanding finance, in understanding commerce, in working obviously with people and teams and some great leaders, I guess particularly the partners of the firm, and some really interesting clients as well. And look, I loved it. It was, again, great experience. But after a couple of years or so, I remember thinking to myself, look, this is a great pathway, but just perhaps in life, there's something that's going to press my buttons, if I can put it that way, or really sort of engage and inspire me some more. And as it so happened, and it really was more a sort of matter of coincidence, that I started to take an interest in policy and public affairs, and I guess you could say I was sort of starting to get a little bit bitten by the bug of politics. And you know, the best career advice I ever got, Michele, was to try to work out what you love and to make it your job. And after, you know, a period of working in politics, you mentioned I was with Joe Hockey from March 96 for about 18 months. Then I was in John Howard's office. And in those two offices, I think perhaps I didn't really know it at the time, but I actually really did love what I did, to help those local people, to be a part of the policy making process, to be a part of a community and to seek to serve the greater good and the public good. I really did love it. And so in time, I thought to myself, yeah, perhaps I can make a career of it. So I went from accounting to law and then business, and now here I am in public life, and what a great privilege it is.
Wow, what a journey from account. You so beautifully described it there and then summed it up even better than I could, Tim. From accounting to law to business and public office. What a wonderful way of describing your life's journey today, and who knows where it can go next, but today, which is fabulous. And I'm sure with those different, you know, working with numbers, but still with people, working in law, you know, so it's again very policy and very technical, all the way through to business, and now, you know, working with the community, which would be a little bit technical, I'm sure, but a lot more than about people and interpersonal relations. With this wonderful background and understanding of humanity, I think you have in those different areas, what would you say success means to you today?
For me, success is service and the legacy that we can leave, the difference that we can make, what it is that, in fact, we can achieve for obviously people we know and love, but obviously the community more broadly, and indeed the world in which we live. And I sometimes think to myself, when I'm 85 and sitting on the porch at the nursing home, what am I going to look back on and be proud of? What will actually have mattered most? And I think, for me, it is family. Of course, for all of us, family really does matter. But it's not money or material possessions or the house we lived in or the car we drove or the holidays we had. It's really about how we have served and contributed and what difference we can say we made to this world and to people, most of all. And I think, public life, they say it's more than a job and a calling. And I think that is true. And I think you've got to want to do it, to seek to serve. And I think you've got to love people as well. If you don't love people, you shouldn't be in public life. And I always have been just drawn to people. From my point of view, it's people that make the world go around. It's not money or material items or anything of the sort. It's people that matter most. And that's, I think, what I treasure most about this role and this opportunity, is to be among people, obviously talking with lots of people, talking with you today, thank you, but in the end serving, and I hope in time making a difference to our community and country.
And I really love that. I'm such a visual person. I really had you sitting there at the nursing home, Tim, 85 years of age, looking back on your very distinguished career and the different opportunities that you helped to shape, whether it was in Joe's or John Howard's offices, or whether it's now yourself in your own office, those different moments in time and those different lives that you will have had an impact on. So I really love how you've described success as being about that service and that legacy, and looking back when you're 185, perhaps even, from that nursing home on that distinguished career. I also think that those types of, very full and very distinguished careers like yourself, that takes a certain element of, in a sense, when I think about how you're dealing with people's issues and concerns, and sometimes many of them, I'm sure, are quite complex and difficult areas. Keeping your own positive mindset and keeping your own get up and go and enthusiasm when sometimes I'm sure it may be, a difficult day, more difficult day than others. Do you want to share with viewers now, not only that you've had this great successful career to date and going forward, but how you in your day-to-day dealing with a lot of people and a lot of issues keep that positive, successful mindset going?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Look, I've always been a natural optimist. I think maybe that's nature, nurture, some combination of the two, or other factors. Where that comes from, it's hard to say. But I guess we're all a product of, our upbringings, and, I'm very fortunate to have come from such a strong, loving family, and I will never take that for granted. But I think attitude means so much. And in fact, I'll tell you a little story. Our eldest daughter, Chloe, was just in the public speaking competition at her school, and they had a choice from a range of topics. And one of the topics was, a positive attitude means so much, or words to that effect. And so Chloe, quite independently, without my sort of nudging her, she chose that topic and delivered a really great speech, and really sort of thought it through and did a bit of sort of homework on it. And really, a positive attitude does mean just so much. And, we all have, our gifts, our opportunities, our pathways, and our challenges in life, but a positive attitude, I think, can get you to so many more places and spaces. And I think it is something that serves you and strengthens you as you go along. And we all have our sort of good days and not so good days, and we're all human, right? But I think to just keep positive, to keep believing, obviously, in yourself, not having tickets on yourself without being overly confident, but believing in, in a sense, who you are and what you're doing. And then obviously in people, in causes, and in the greater good, you know, in our humanity, in our polity, in what it is that we are building together as people in community. And I think having a positive attitude, as my little girl said in her speech, attitude means everything. And I think in a lot of ways that is right.
What a wonderful, wonderful example. Thank you so much for sharing, and congratulations to Chloe. We did have a little bit of a technical, but I'm sure people heard, because your voice was still going through, even though the image flicked a little bit. But what a wonderful, wonderful suggestion about, and so great that Chloe picked it up herself, about that positive attitude.
And she won, by the way. She won the public speaking competition for her year at school. So very, very proud dad, and yeah, we're immensely proud of all of our kids. But that was great for Chloe.
Wonderful. And I think you're doing two things here, Tim, not just sharing the tip about the positive attitude, but also sharing the tip about a bragging parent, you know, being proud of your children's accomplishments. And I'm sure you don't need to, but some parents, you know, living vicariously through the children's accomplishments as well, because it is something to be proud as a parent about, you know. It's a sign that she's continuing that self-confidence that you were so eloquently describing you gained from your parents and from your background.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a wonderful example of this continuity in that space. And the only thing I would add to that around positive attitude is sometimes people, when they hear something like that, they might think that they have to be positive the whole time. And then if something comes along, they can start beating themselves up in a sense. And I use the phrase positive focus, and,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that that's what you meant as well.
Yes.
So that if something happens, you don't kind of ignore what happened and diminish what happened to you, but you recalibrate that to the positive focus or positive attitude after you've dealt with what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's right, Michelle. Well said. And you know, something that this is just a personal view, right? Like I don't think in this modern era, in this busy sort of 24/7 online digital kind of life that we seem to all lead these days, I don't think we actually express and sort of show enough gratitude for what we have, for where we live, for the freedoms we enjoy, the opportunities that are so present to us in this part of the world. You know, we are immensely fortunate. I like to say, whenever I give a speech to a citizenship ceremony to welcome new Australians, I always like to say that either to be born in Australia or to become an Australian, as they are, in my view, is to win the lottery of life. Our country is not perfect, but I think we are the best country in the world in so many ways for so many reasons. And we should be grateful for that. Now, that doesn't mean we can't, you know, sort of have a bad day or feel down about something or have a frustration or concern or otherwise. Again, we're all real and human. But I think just to sort of reflect upon that which we do have and which so many people around the world don't necessarily, I think we are immensely fortunate. And gratitude is to be thankful is a stabilizing, positive, strengthening force, I think, for us as people and for us as a society as well.
And gratitude, you so beautifully and eloquently described it there, not just with Australia, but with, you know, living in this part of the world and the opportunities that we may have that may not necessarily be open to many others. I remember even one time in Australia, we're very lucky that it's pretty easy to go and vote. And, you know, the hard part is how many sausages to buy. And for people overseas, what I mean is they have like a hot dog, American hot dog, that they sell at the elections, and it's the schools and places raising funds. And I remember one time, you know, really reflecting when I went to vote, and I was really touched because there'd been another voting somewhere around the world, and I just recognized how much of an honor it was and how grateful I was as a woman, as a white person, as a this, as a that, all of the things that meant that, the hardest part of my going to vote was deciding on whether to have tomato sauce or barbecue sauce on this hot dog, compared to many, many other countries where, voting is not that straightforward. And so gratitude in that greater sense, gratitude that we've got clean air, water, whatever it might be, starting with what you have around you. And I'll take that as another suggestion, Tim, to be grateful for whatever you have in your life.
Yeah, I think it's important, and indeed, we have so much to be grateful for, and yeah, look, I just encourage people to, I guess, don't, and I kind of, without lecturing anyone, I like to say this to people: don't take for granted what we have, and indeed, one of the things I always like to say to people who are becoming new citizens of our country is, please volunteer, put your hand up, serve, contribute, join up. Clubs, charities, societies, groups, sporting clubs, churches, etc. Just contribute to the fabric of our society, and together we will all make it even better still.
I like, and I'm going to take that as a third suggestion from you about the service element, not just for new migrants and Australian citizens, etc. I found through my career, and I've now lived, I recently moved, and I realised this is my 7th major life move from where I've been living, literally packing everything up. And what I found is, getting engaged in the local community, becoming engaged in local social groups or groups, whatever they may be, but becoming involved in serving in some way. So I've been chief fun officer, I've been this, I've been that, I've been all sorts of different names, typically names I make up myself in these different positions. But it helps to create that community, helps to socialise you. And also, I think when you serve, it takes you outside of yourself. And sometimes we can get so caught up with what's going on in our own lives that when we serve and give to others, it is a great suggestion. Thank you, Tim, because it helps you to get out of your own way and see the benefits of things that you have in your own life.
Yeah, I really like that. The Rotary slogan, service above self. I think they are such great words. It's such a positive sentiment. And, I think, I love Rotary, and there are lots of great sort of clubs and charities like it, of course, and we're fortunate in this part of the world to have good, strong Rotary clubs. And I just plucked that out as one example. But that notion of service above self, the idea that, giving is more valuable and more precious than to receive, I think that is such a great sort of promise and sentiment. And, the more people can put that into practice, the better our world will be.
Yeah, I agree. And Rotary is a great example. Lions, Zonta, there's so many different, again, even being grateful for the fact that we have there's so many options to choose from in Australia and overseas, many countries. There's different groups that people can, I'm sure, sign up and help out with, international groups or even local groups. The thing about humanity is that there's always other people to serve and to help and to be grateful, bringing those beautiful things together about the positive attitude, the gratitude, and the service. And what other suggestions might you have for creating that successful mindset?
I'll tell you what I've done for many years, and I don't really remember when I kind of started doing it, but I'm a bit of a goal setter. So at the start of each year, I like to think to myself, looking ahead to the year that's coming, what is it, in the big picture sense, career-wise, family-wise, not sort of small things, but what are some goals that I can seek to strive towards and in time, obviously, seek to hold myself to. So they might be, going for a run twice a week, or, I don't know, reading at least X number of books, or, obviously things for my family and career-wise and so on. Obviously, one of my goals for this year was to be re-elected, and I'm immensely grateful to the people of this area. creating the conditions in which that was able to be achieved. And so I think to set a goal in life, or to set a series of goals each year in life, is a good thing. And the important thing, I think, is to visit those goals, to look at them, to read them, to take them in, to, in a sense, have a bit of self-talk about those goals, is to do it regularly. And I must confess, I probably don't get to it every single day. But I'm conscious of it, and I try to, as often as I can, just look at those goals. I just have them saved into my phone, and if I've got a minute or so, sitting on a bus or train or wherever I might be, just to look at them and think about them, and just to sort of keep yourself focused upon those goals is, in my view, a good thing in life. And goal setters, I think, who am I to say, but I think goal setters, as a general rule, are more likely to achieve those goals and perhaps just to get more done in life. So, and it's an easy thing, right? It's intuitive. Anyone can do it in any context, way, shape or form, just to set a few goals for yourself and to strive towards them, hold yourself accountable to them, and you'll be more likely to get them done.
Wow, what a wonderful, wonderful example again about setting goals, putting them on your phone. And I like the examples you used, reading some books, some time with family, some business goals like getting re-elected. Congratulations on getting re-elected. And going for a run. So you covered some really great areas and a wide range of areas there. I would love to hear your insights into people aren't perfect, obviously, so you want to get to them regularly, and so you check your phone when you have a moment to be able to revisit them and relook at them. What do you do? And again, this is a very human thing, but what do you do when you pick up your phone and you look at your goals and you go, well, I didn't do that, and that, and I haven't done that one for 3 weeks now. Instead of, in a sense, going down that negative self-talk pathway or that people can do, what do you do to keep yourself focused on, well, I didn't do that because I was actually busy over here doing this, and so that's okay because this is a high priority, or whatever the self-talk might be. Please explain to people, how do you talk yourself so it still comes out with that positive attitude?
Yeah, I think great question. I think the key is to just continue to strive, to accept, our challenges, our interruptions, our hurdles, our imperfections, and to know that it's okay to not, get to 100% all of the time, or indeed 100% every year. And I mean, these are sort of goals for the calendar year in my case. So I guess I kind of always, towards the end of the year, I'm thinking, have I got time enough to achieve it if I'm falling behind? But equally, I don't really sweat it. Like, I mean, they're designed to be real goals, but I think the key is to be realistic and pragmatic. Yes, to be sort of principled and driven and focused, but also just to sort of, in a sense, understand that things come up, life can change, challenges come our way. And, I mean, I had an old boss who a long time ago said to me, "Oh, Tim, 80% is good enough." And I'm not saying that is true for everything in life. Like, that's not always the case, but often it is. And, it's okay sometimes to accept that we don't get to 100%. That's kind of life. And, and I can be, a bit of a sort of perfectionist. I think my wife would probably say that. So, I do like to set, like a high bar and a sort of high sense of expectations, but equally, you can't be kind of sweating it or beating yourself up over it. You've got to be realistic and pragmatic about it, whilst still keeping that focus and continuing to strive always towards those goals.
I think that's a wonderful explanation and really perfect. Well put. Being a bit of perfectionist myself, it is one of those things where, letting things go at 80% and knowing when done is done.
Yeah.
And I really hear you, and that's such great advice about, you're sitting there and you look at those goals and you're reflecting on, well, where am I up to and how am I tracking with them, and going, well, it wasn't perfect, but I did 3 out of the 5 this week, so that's done to me. That's great. I can tick that because my focus was on these areas instead. And I think it's funny how it all kind of comes back to that positive attitude of, I got something done and that was a start. And I think that's really important for people with that self-talk when looking at the goals and when setting the goals, not to kind of be their jailer then. You're not going to get out of jail unless you completely finish it and it's perfect and all of that.
Yeah, well said. I think, I mean, we don't want to like tie ourselves up in knots, but equally we do, you want to kind of set some expectations and indeed to have those goals. So sometimes it's a bit of it's a balance, but also like things can change, like like in the course of a year, of course, a lot can happen, right? Like, and things will come your way, surprises, unforeseen opportunities, pathways, hurdles, etc. So, just to know that, life is not a straight line, and sometimes, we can kind of go the long way to get towards a goal, or sometimes it can surprise us and we can get there more quickly than we realize. And sometimes there are huge sort of difficulties and hurdles along the way, but to just continue to, persist and to seek those goals, I think, and there are some goals, of course, in a sense. I mean, I try to sort of change them up a bit year on year, but there are some that I guess, in terms of sort of health and family and so on, are pretty kind of consistent, obviously, for good reason. So, you sort of say to yourself, well, look, we're playing the long game. One of my favourite expressions in life is, I'm playing the long game. It's not about quick wins, although sometimes they are possible and you can achieve them, but it's that sort of longer pattern, that kind of consistent, onwards and upwards sort of approach and hopefully activity that I think can get you places in life.
I love that, not playing the long game. The way that I always think of it is that life is a marathon, not a sprint. And so those milestones and goals and things that you set, and that's why I loved how we started today talking about your life's journey, because your life's journey isn't a sprint. It's actually a marathon where, the first time round your life was as an auditor, the second time round it's a wonderful metaphor of how there's always, I think, in life there's boundless opportunities. If things don't necessarily work the first time, then you can come back again on the next sprint around. And the goal setting, I think, is a really positive way, because even if you meet 69% this time around, you can get 70%. And anybody that does ultra marathons, it will always tell you about, it's always incrementally 0.1 of a second, 0.001 of a second beating your last time.
Yeah, look, I think that's right. I try to see everything in life, I guess, as a sort of reward and or a lesson. I mean, I think we're always learning in life, and you can learn something from everyone. Every conversation, every interaction is precious, and we are constantly, no matter where we are, who we are, what we're doing, we are all learning. And I've sort of, I guess, tried to adopt that mindset along the way. And sometimes it can be a real reward, and sometimes it isn't. But so long as you are learning and growing and seeking to sort of develop, yourself, your career, your pathways, your opportunities, your family, your community, I think that's really important to have that sort of mindset of constant learning and seeking to improve along the way, of course.
Wonderful. And Tim, if people wanted to seek and learn more about you, what would be the best way for them to reach out and contact you?
Well, I'm a pretty open book these days, and people can reach out, and I would love for people to reach out, however they see fit, whether it's online through my website, through my social media. I'm on just about every platform. I'm not on TikTok. Maybe I should be. We can talk about that another time. I'm not on Snapchat either. Maybe I should be. I don't know. But I'm on most of the platforms. Equally, really happy, obviously, particularly for people in Willoughby, the area I'm very proud to represent, the community, I know and love. Really happy for people to drop into the office, to give us a call, to organise a chat. I love talking to people. Again, I think that has to come and does, for me, come hand in hand with public life. And once again, people make the world go round, and every conversation and every interaction really does matter.
Wonderful. And Tim, one of my favourite questions is asking people, if you were to give some advice to your younger self, what might that advice be?
Yeah, this is a great question, Michele. I think one piece of advice I would give my younger self is just treasure your family, and in particular when you're young, your grandparents. And I mean, sadly now all my grandparents are long gone, and it was only recently I lost my dad. And I think, those family connections, that history, those stories, what it is that our grandparents and parents have achieved in life, what it is that, in a sense, as they sat on the porch of the nursing home, 85 years old, what were they looking back on, proud of, reflecting upon? And I think that means a lot for younger generations. And I mean, I'm fortunate, my family is very, in a sense, well documented, and stories have been passed on from one generation to another. And, we have so much to be thankful for and to be proud of. So I feel fortunate. But I think when you're young, you tend to be living in the moment. You're sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and sometimes, it's easy to sort of not think so much about some of that legacy, that family, that history, that which has come before us. And I think it is actually very formative and very valuable for young people, particularly, to focus on that. And I kind of no sort of regrets as such, but I probably would have loved to have just chatted some more to my grandparents, to have said, well, tell me some more about your life, your service, your career, etc. But having said that, I'm immensely fortunate and very, very grateful for my family.
What a wonderful, wonderful introspective, but also I can hear that, it's not a regret that you didn't have time, and it's well documented and all of that. But I can hear that, wouldn't there have been the luxury? And again, it's that thing with youth. You don't necessarily want to sit around as a younger person hearing the old stories, etc. But hearing some more of them, and hearing them from the people to tell them. And I'm sorry again to hear about your father.
Thank you.
It's that those times, and I think that's what you're commenting on, the special moments that no amount of jobs or money or this or that can ever shake that special time with family.
Yeah. As they say, the best things in life are free, and I think that's very true. Very true.
It is. And again, I could talk so many hours with you, Tim. You're so incredibly generous with your time, but we have to bring the show to a close. So thank you so much, Tim Jones, for being on the show today.
Great pleasure, Michele. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Happy to come back on anytime. So much more to talk about. But thank you for hosting this program, for sharing your thoughts, your insights, and your counsel for so many people. It means a great deal, and it's been my great pleasure.
Thank you so much, Tim. And we are passionate about sharing these insights with whoever and wherever people come from, regardless of race, creed, colour and race, to help everybody who can see the show and hear the show to create that successful mindset for themselves, to empower them to be more grateful, and all of those wonderful, wonderful suggestions that you made today, Tim. But for now, it's the end of the show. So from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.